What up is Marcus? We have week 11 is waiver wire time. Let's go through some waiver wires. We're going to start at the quarterback position. Josh Dobbs, of course, my Minnesota Vikings here. I've got to see him firsthand. And when you do some of these sleeper bets, you kind of get to see some trends. And Josh Dobbs has been a very mobile quarterback that has had a high rushing floor. I mean, the second most rushing yards this year by a quarterback. He's 44% owned his last three games, 23, 25, 25. He's been a very good fantasy quarterback. Now, we'll see what exactly happens, but the Bears are a very, very bad defense, and so he is the number one streamer this week. I'm somebody that was very questionable on if Josh Dobbs could actually be a serviceable starter. And I thought Jaren Hall would be the starting quarterback, but now that he has been concussed, I don't think he's going to get his job back. I think Jaren Hall is going to be the backup until Josh Dobbs proves otherwise. And so that's sometimes just how the NFL goes. It's a brutal game. And sometimes if you get hurt, you don't get your job back. So Josh Dobbs here, 44% owned, 23, 25, 25. Very good performances the last 3 weeks. And that's, again, with two different teams. And he gets the Bears a horrible defense. The next one is Jordan Love. He is my stream of the week. So Josh Dobbs may have been picked up for maybe some odd reasons. He's been picked up in a couple of my leagues. But Jordan Love, against the Chargers, you have, they've let 6 of 9 quarterbacks be over 20 points. I think Jordan Love gets over that 20 points mark. The Chargers have been just bleeding points on defense, and I think that the Packers are going to score a couple of touchdowns here. And so I want pieces of the Packers this week. We're going to talk about one a little bit later on in the show, and we're going to talk about a couple that might even be some desperate bye week fill-ins, some desperate flex plays, needless to say. So Jordan Love and players that have already should be gone. I mean, you should be looking on the waiver wire. Jared Goff should be, again, gone. Dak Prescott is gone. Sam Howell should be gone. I mean, these quarterbacks should be already removed. Now, if they're not, then you take one of those guys instead. But those guys, again, almost all the leagues that I know are gone. Running backs, Devin Singletary, who is, again, under that 50% owned threshold. I don't understand why. I mean, you're probably in your active leagues. He was taken as soon as Pierce was listed as doubtful. Boom, Devin Singletary gone in all my leagues, but 30 for 150 and 1. If he's somehow still on there because maybe somebody dropped him, sometimes you get into these roster situations where if you need a tight end or if you get into a situation where you need a wide receiver, sometimes you have to drop some of these running backs off the roster, and so Devin Singletary may be gone, and he would be the number one pickup if Dameon Pierce is still hurt. Keaton Mitchell, 21% owned, did not have a good performance, had a good performance 2 weeks ago, but he outsnapped Justice Hill still. And so if you're going to have a player that outsnaps and is kind of the RB2 for Baltimore, he has the biggest upside. If you are a contending team, if you are a team, especially in redraft, that is looking for 3-4 weeks from now, which player of these is going to give me the best chance of being an everyday starter, Keaton Mitchell is that player. And so if I'm a team that has probably more than 6 wins, I'm hoping 7 wins. If you have 7 wins or more, then Keaton Mitchell is your number one pickup. Not even Devin Singletary, because you want the player that is going to do you well in week 13, week 14, versus the player that does you good in week 11. Like, that doesn't do you much. I mean, yeah, it gets you a win. Maybe you're fighting for that division win, the playoffs here, then that might change you a little bit. But Keaton Mitchell is going to be the better long-term play. Antonio Gibson, another one that I want to talk about because he's only 38% owned, and Antonio Gibson has had 5 catches in 3 straight games. If you're in full point PPR, that's a very safe floor. He is being involved a ton more in the offense. We have seen Antonio Gibson be an RB1 for multiple consecutive years in a row. Brian Robinson is a bruiser, a powerful back, but Antonio Gibson is a better pass catcher and one of the best pass catching running backs I believe in the league. And that's hard to say, but he was a wide receiver basically coming out of college. And I think we forget that Kenneth Gainwell was a running back and Antonio Gibson was basically a wide receiver. And in my fantasy, I remember the draft board on the rookie, you look for players, and we were looking for Antonio Gibson. We couldn't find him on the little sticker sheets that you get putting on the draft board, and we found him under wide receivers because he was technically kind of drafted as a wide receiver. Didn't really know, but he's a really good pass-catching running back. And so if you're looking for somebody that has a safe floor, Antonio Gibson could be your guy. And then Ty Chandler is 0.2%, another really good ad here. As being a Minnesota Vikings fan, I got to see that he looked like the better running back. He's explosive. He's fast. And at this point, I'm okay taking a shot at Ty Chandler being something. And I think that Ty Chandler, again, 0.2% owned, maybe a little bit more owned in some other leagues, but Alexander Mattison, concussed. When you have a concussion now, just assume they're gone for a week. We see that in so many cases now that this day in the NFL, this day and age in the NFL this year, if you're concussed, you're out for a week. There are so few cases that you get concussed and you come back. And when you do come back early, Brock Purdy being one of the very few examples, you usually don't perform very well. So Alexander Mattison probably, and they do have a bye week in 2 weeks. Minnesota does. I believe it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It might be 3 weeks. I think it's Denver, or wait, we have Denver next week. What am I thinking? Chicago. I keep thinking Chicago. Sorry, Josh Dobbs goes to Denver. You guys are probably looking at me going, what in the world are you guys talking about? He plays Chicago in 2 weeks. He plays Denver, a little bit tougher. Sorry that I just can't. I didn't write it down because I was like, oh, I'll remember they play Chicago in 2 weeks. So they play Denver and Chicago, which besides Josh Allen being a little bit of a mess last week, I still think Josh Dobbs is a start. And he's going to be definitely a start in 2 weeks, so be aware of that. And then Ty Chandler is going to be against Denver, and then he's going to be against Chicago. So I think defenses that you can. I know Denver's defense has gotten better, but still, I think that Minnesota has shown that even against the Saints defense, which is a good defense, that they were able to go through and score quite a bit of points on them, especially in the first half, 24 points. Wide receivers, we're going to go through them really quick because they each have their kind of pros and cons. So we're going to go through them all. Noah Brown, Rondale Moore, Brandon Cooks. So Rondale Moore targets. You're looking for hopefully Kyler Murray's wide receiver 2 on that offense. Could be Michael Wilson. Might even throw Michael Wilson in there. It's ugly. Maybe you if you have a deep roster bench or you have a deep bench, maybe worth a stash. Noah Brown has been the guy that has scored the most points besides CeeDee Lamb the last couple weeks. 51.5 points. CJ Stroud looks like the guy. And if there's anything I did wrong last year, this draft is putting Bryce Young and CJ Stroud in the same stratosphere. But I think almost everyone did in Dynasty. Jordan Addison over QJ, a huge win. I mean, there's other wins that we definitely had as well. But I think CJ Stroud putting him, I said they were 1A, 1B kind of situation. Anthony Richardson, I kind of said they're all they have their pros and cons. They're all relatively in that same tier. And we kind of see that Bryce Young is probably the worst of those three. But Noah Brown has been awesome. So 6% owned, maybe worth he's heating up, which means fire shot. Let's see if he hits it or not. I mean, right now Houston's putting up a ton of yards through the air, and so worth a chance. And then Brandon Cooks, 10 for 173 and 1. Dak has looked amazing. They don't seem like they want to run with Tony Pollard, so that would be a potential worth here. And let's go through tight ends. So if Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid, those guys should be long gone. I mean, they have been long gone in my league for the last 3 weeks. So you have Cade Otton, Luke Musgrave, and Tyler Conklin. And Tyler Conklin, 6 for 66, actually really good 2 weeks ago, and then 7 for 70. So very, he's been that kind of dump off guy, and I think that he continues to be that. Tyler Conklin is kind of this, this tight end that doesn't look great on the stat sheet, but he just, you say his name and you're just like, ugh. And he performs. He performs well at times. Luke Musgrave, I talked about it. You're going against the Chargers. High-powered offensive game, I believe. And so Jordan Love, Luke Musgrave. Oh, and some wide receivers to talk about is Jalen Reed and Romeo Dobbs. If they're still available, they, again, are some deep flex plays. I mean, there's a dynasty roster that I'm going to have to start one of them because I have so many injuries at the wide receiver spot that I'm kind of stuck with a wide receiver 2 that's going to be likely Green Bay. All right. So again, these are some waivers here. All right. Let's pick up some players. And if you have fab budget questions, put them below, and I'll give you the fab budget that you should spend on these players. Peace out. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow.